That's not a good lesson for tonight. Nah. 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 Hey, weird quirky me.
Look, I'm watching the fashion show. What do you want?
What do you think we should make tonight's leadership lesson about?
I don't know. How about presenting yourself? There you go. Leadership lesson for you.
Hey, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'll have to make that lesson on. Wait a second. When did you start watching fashion shows? Welcome to Leadership Implements. I'm your mentor, Captain Andrew Myers, and today we're going to be talking about how to present yourself as leaders. So, question of the day: what is required of us to present ourselves as leaders? In other words, how do we put our best foot forward as leaders? What does a leader look like? Let's start off with that question. Does it look like this guy, or does he look like this guy? And the question of the matter is, I think they're both leaders. It's just they're dressed differently, they look differently, and quite frankly, they're from different times. That's where I'm kind of getting at with when it comes to presenting ourselves as leaders. Because when it comes to presenting ourselves as leaders, there are three things that we have to be aware of. Number one, we have to go with looks. And when I say looks, I don't mean if you look like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not saying you're not a leader. What I am saying, though, is we have to be dressed for the occasion. We always have to look our best when it comes to every situation as leaders. And so we also have to look into personal care and taking care of ourselves, and also public interaction, which is our attitude, our confidence, speech to others, such as how we talk and how we act. And these are things that we have to be aware of. This is how we present ourselves when it comes to every situation, when it comes to every single obstacle in our leadership ability. And so the fact of the matter is we present ourselves without thinking about how we present ourselves to others. So how do we present ourselves? And what does that kind of look like? And so the first thing we're going to go with is looks when it comes to being dressed for the occasion. Being on our game when it comes to being dressed for the occasion. We have to remember that as individuals, we perceive our own ideas of what leadership looks like. And as a consequence, we end up creating a false narrative of what a leader looks like because that particular idea of a leader may not meet the expectations that we have, especially for when we meet other leaders. So like if we meet another squadron commander, or we meet a new boss, or we meet a new manager. Inevitably, we end up comparing and contrasting. Okay, this guy checks off these boxes, but he doesn't check off these boxes, so I don't think he's a good leader. Let's slow it down for a second. Now, I'm not saying it's having an idea of what a leader looks like or having principles that you have to fall back on. That's not a bad thing. In fact, that's a very good thing, and it's very important that we have those so we can recognize what is a good and what is bad in our own leadership as well as others. And we can kind of keep ourselves accountable in that matter with our peers and with our subordinates, or even with our managers or with anybody else. And so that's a great thing. But sometimes we can take our principles and we can be blinded by them. And when we do that, sometimes we don't give a leader or that we just meet or one that we've known for a very long time. And sometimes when we have those like little blinders up, then they may not have the opportunity to prove themselves as really good leaders. And so we may miss their greatest strength that they have that we fall short on. And so we have to be aware of that, and we have to almost like be willing to give a chance. But we also have to remember that those people are doing the same thing to us. And so we have to not only make sure that we are putting our best game forward, or our best foot forward and being on top of our game, but we have to be willing to put our best foot forward, and we have to be on top of our game in any and every situation. Because we are not always going to have the answers to everything. Because we may not have the right ideas. We may not have the right systems. We may not always have the magic answer that's going to be like, hey, this guy's a leader. It's the fact that we're able to say, okay, this is the decision we're going to go with. This is the decision that I made. Let's go with it. And that's what makes a leader, is being confident with your answers, being confident with the decisions you made. Because right or wrong, at the end of the day, you have to answer for only you. However, though, we also have to remember that we have to take personal care of ourselves. And when I say that, I mean not just necessarily hygiene. What I'm talking about when I say that is we have to be aware of ourselves in every other realm, such as our emotional state or our mental state or you know spiritual life, anything. When it comes to taking personal care of ourselves, it we sometimes tend to lag what our needs are, and we try to continue to give and give and give, and we just give to our subordinates because why? Because we are the leader, which is a very good thing to be at because then that shows that you're a selfless leader, that you're a servant leader, and that is the most important and the most purest form of leadership when it comes to you getting down on your subordinates level and saying, okay, let's see how we can work through this. Let's try to make this better. But sometimes though, we when we give too much, we end up uh, we end up falling apart. Is the best way to describe it. We break down. We're eventually going to hit that stopping point where it's like I can't go on. And the reason why is because of the needs that we lacked and which we should have taken care of a long time ago. You see, we need to be able to exercise and enact boundaries with ourselves and with others. And although it's very good to be giving, and that's where we should be found as leaders, we have to be able to say, okay, this is all I can give. I have to. I need a minute to kind of collect stuff for myself. And it's okay. It is okay to to get yourself step yourself to the side and say, all right, let's do a check. Let's do a reality check. See what's going on. And in fact, it's very good when you use the boundaries and be able to say, hey, what's wrong here? How can I work out myself so that way I can be able to help continue to lead this team. And what happens is if we fail to exercise the boundary, if we fail to fix the needs that we have, and if or fix the issues that we have, then at some point they're not only going to get bigger, but then it's an automatic failure for you to lead first off, and most importantly, now you have no way of continuing to leading because you have nothing to help keep you going. And this applies for every need as a human, from food and water to emotional to spiritual to mental to emotional. Every type of need that is there, you have to be able to keep yourself in a mental check and say, okay, am I capable of continuing on, or do I need a break? Do I need to be able to fix this before I move on? And it's remember, it's good to do that because it shows that you're human too, and it shows that you may not be perfect, and that it shows to your team, let's give them a second because again, it's not bad. It's not a bad thing to show your human side. But when you make mistakes and they can cost the rest of the team, that's when there's an issue. And always remember, when the leader goes down, the team goes down, and there's not much that can help you from there, because someone else is going to step in and take charge, and someone else is going to take the lead, and then you're going to fall back to the wayside because you failed to take care of yourself as well as taking care of those who are serving under you or with you. So we're now going to go into public interaction. Your attitude or your respect towards others, your demeanor, it gets noticed by everyone, whether you know it or not. And you can meet somebody or someone could see you across the room. It does not matter. Everybody always notices you, and I'm not trying to make you feel insecure and nervous about that. That's not my intention. But I am saying though that people do notice what we do and how we act, because we all notice right and wrong, just at least to some degree. And what happens is that when you get pegged for being disrespectful, I mean, if you have the wrong attitude, the wrong posture, even the way you look at somebody, and all this is because of the fact that your attitude is everything. And if you choose to be grumpy and you don't want to do something, a lot of other people are going to notice your character and your integrity right there, because now you're revealing the side of I'm all about me and what I want to do. And we as leaders, we don't have things we don't want to do. We tend to have an expectation of how a leader looks and how a leader acts without thinking about it. Although we do this to help us with our own growth as leaders, we can't discredit a leader because maybe they believe in servant leadership. When it comes to the construction worker guy, like I showed you, what happens is we end up expecting the boss or the leader to be well dressed or have a suit and tie. Sometimes we have that expectation of them being dressed for the job, and sometimes the job requires them to get dirty. Is that a bad thing? Absolutely not, because that's servant leadership. If you're willing to get down and dirty with your troops, but what happens though is we have to, even though we may not fulfill all the people's requirements, we have to be willing to put our best foot forward in our leadership style and saying, this is what I do and this is why. And if you explain that up front with someone you meet as a potential employer, as a potential candidate for a job opportunity or anything, then they're going to know, okay, this guy is very involved in what he does. He's dedicated. And that is where you want to be found, because now it shows good integrity, it shows a good character, it shows a good work ethic. And I mean, this applies to anything, not just like the business world, but how about the military, or how about your school and college? We're not always going to please people. We're not people pleasers. We are people who choose to do what we know is the right thing and the best thing for the moment, because that is what is right. As leaders, that is what we believe in. And we have to be willing to exercise the boundary as servant leadership. And we can't be just out there saying what we're not doing. We have to be willing to be honest with ourselves, and that goes into our integrity. So sometimes we have to deviate our expectations with the reality that as a leader, every leader is different. And we have to figure out how to perform as leaders, either under someone that we don't necessarily agree on everything with, or if we're working with somebody who could be like your best friend in the leadership world. So key points to wrap up here. Number one, compare but don't disregard. Always be willing to compare and say, how can I make myself better, and how can I help use that to influence others. Number two, always give a leader a second chance. When they mess up, it happens. We're humans. It is what it is. Be willing to give that second chance. Sometimes the best leaders end up giving a third chance, but you have to be patient, but still give the boundary, saying, this is what it is, follow it, or we have a problem. And then the third one is, when it comes to either, no matter what, being well dressed for the job or dressed for exercising servant leadership, or if it comes to our demeanor or the way we act, we always have to put our best foot forward. We always have to be consciously thinking, what would a leader do in this moment? How would somebody who's inspired me to be a good leader, how would they handle this situation? And so it just goes to show you that when we present ourselves as leaders, when we keep these things in the back of our mind, we kind of establish ourselves as leaders in a much better sense to a lot more people than others who may not care about some things but care a lot about others. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or any questions or concerns, or if you have a subject that you want to talk about, hit me up with an email. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a good day.